everyone, and welcome to the show. This show is going to be the last show for the Get Out of Teaching podcast. And I just wanted to explain why that is, because I've had some really interesting conversations in the past few weeks. And I was telling another coach from Germany about the podcast and about how I help people to get out of teaching. And I said, one of the problems that I think I have in this calling this Get Out of Teaching and having the Get Out of Teaching Facebook group is that when you think you're going to get out of teaching, it's very much a kind of, you're on the edge of the diving board and you're about to launch into the unknown, and there's this void ahead of you and you don't really know what that's going to look like. And so it can be quite scary and frightening and uncertain. And she said, oh, when I hear that get out of teaching, I think of someone sitting under a bridge eating a pretzel, which made me really laugh because it was a funny image. But I think the point is that it seems like you're directionless and you've got no place to go if you're sitting under a bridge eating a pretzel. Maybe that's not your ideal life. Certainly that would not be mine. And so I've actually decided I want to first of all acknowledge that this has been a fantastic ride. I've loved making this podcast. It's the 115th episode today. It's six seasons in, and each season had its own flavor. And so that was really exciting. I began the podcast right at the very beginning of the pandemic, before we really even knew that it was going to be an issue. And so kept going all through. And it's been, a great experience for me, just as a business owner and as an entrepreneur and a creator as well. So I just thought I'd do a little bit of a history lesson about the podcast. So it started off on the 6th of February in 2020. And the first episode, I was actually interviewed by Brett Jarman, who helped me to set up the podcast in the first place. So I'd never done it before. He had a little course that it was like an online course with some mentoring and coaching in it. And so he walked me through the things I would need to do. I had to get some music created because I couldn't find any music that I was allowed to reproduce for a podcast. So I got Zoe Fox from Zoe Fox and the Rocket Clocks to create the music for me. And I wanted something really uplifting and hopeful, and I think she did a great job of doing that. And then so the next few interviews, I talked to Robin Hawke, who was an interior designer who had been a teacher, but she had a disabled daughter, and so she needed something that she could do from home. And then I spoke with Chris Carlin, who's a financial advisor, Deborah Douglas, who was a real estate agent in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in the States. And then, a whole heap of other guests who came along, told their story about how they got out of teaching and what they've set up into next. One of the highlights for me was a conversation with Gabby Stroud, who was the author of the book Teacher. And she talks about her really heartbreaking journey out of education, and talks about what she's doing now and some of the fears that she felt along the way, and the uncertainty around not having a steady income while she navigated through the grief and the loss and the pain of leaving the profession. So really great podcast interview, that one. And I think that was my longest episode. So yeah, I've had a really great time. Spoken to so many different people about well-being, about how to stay well while you're staying in the job. I've talked with people about how to set up your LinkedIn profile and how to create your own brand, and search engine optimization for your website if you decide to start your own business. And I've talked to lots of people about how they did set up in business and what that looked like for them, and the steps that they needed to take. And people have been so generous in sharing all of those details with me. And so I just want to say thank you to every guest that I've had on the podcast. It's been such a fun time for me. And every episode, apart from this one, has been an interview. So every 114 episodes of me talking with somebody else. So yeah, just thank you to all who've been part of that. So I'd also just like to say thank you to a few people apart from Zoe who helped me with the just getting this all to happen. So initially, when I began the podcast, I quickly realized that editing was not my strong suit. And so I got my daughter Eleni to help me. And so I'm very grateful to you, Eleni, for being my support in those early months as we got it established. And at that stage, I was still doing my own transcription. Thank goodness Otter AI came on the scene, and I was able to get some of that done sort of by, software. And eventually stopped doing transcription for the episodes after we'd done about, I don't know how many, 40 or 50. And I also had later, when after like sort of when we were really settled into the pandemic and we were starting to get, we're in lockdowns here in Melbourne, my future son-in-law, Tim Chadwick, took over the editing of the podcast. And at one time, we had a 5-kilometer radius, and that my daughter and he lived, I think they were like 5.5 kilometers away, so just a little bit outside the radius, but legally we weren't meant to go there. So she and I met in the car park at Preston Market and did an exchange where I gave her my computer for the weekend so that he could edit the podcast episodes. And then we met again at the market, which is like halfway between the two houses, and I was able to get the computer back so that we could then upload it and everything like that. So that was really an added challenge into the mix when I wasn't really kind of capable of doing my own editing. But that was pretty exciting too. And then eventually I handed over the editing to Fleur Garland, who's based in Western Australia. So I sent her the recording, and she splices it all together with the intro and the outro. And she has done an amazing job. And she also notifies the guests when they're going to be, when their episode goes to air. And I can't thank her enough for all of the work that she's done to support this podcast, and also my newsletter, which she also helps me get out every week. So go Fleur, you've been awesome. And and also Millie from the Philippines, who lets people into the Facebook group, has done an amazing job very consistently over a number of years now. And I'm grateful to her too, as that group has just tipped over 20,000 members. So yeah, lots going on over the past few years, but it's been a really great experience. So I just want to also talk about what's next, because I'm not just giving up on podcasting, but I just felt that it was time to create something slightly different, with a slightly different focus. And so I will be, in the next few weeks, launching another podcast, which will be called Possibilities Beyond the Classroom. I've already created the little tile for that, so I'm pretty excited about that. I don't have any music yet, so I've still got to work on that and a few other things, and work out about editing and all those kinds of things as well. So that's what's coming up next for me. And in those few weeks off, I'll be getting all that stuff ready. And then I'd love you to subscribe to that podcast when it's released, because I'm hoping that the change in title will help people to see that the intention is that it's a very positive thing, a very positive experience, and that getting out of teaching doesn't need to be this bleak prospect where there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear, but rather an opportunity to explore the possibilities, and see what else is out there, and start making connections with people. And so I'm hoping to talk to lots more teachers who've gotten out and who are willing to share their journey in the new podcast, and really create more of a focus on what are the possibilities, what are the options, what are the strategies that we need to employ in order to get out, so that we leave well. And I want really people to be able to maintain their mental health while they're on their way out. So I just want to say thank you to you too, the listener, who's been faithfully downloading this podcast every week, and gleaning the wisdom that from all the many guests. And I just want to thank you, because without your support and without your enthusiasm for this podcast, there'd be no point me creating it. It would just be out into the ether with nowhere for it to land. So thank you so much for being part of this journey along with me. And I want you to keep your ear to the ground for the Beyond the Possibilities Beyond the Classroom podcast, which will be launching in a few weeks' time. And if you want to work with me, I am a career transition coach for educators. I help teachers get out of teaching and into a life they love. And I guess I'm going to shift my focus when I say that too, and say I help teachers who want to leave education to explore the possibilities beyond the classroom. If that sounds like you and you'd like to know more, there's a few ways I can help you. First of all, you can book a strategy call with me. You can go to my website, larksong.com.au, and on there's a tab, a little button. You can hit that and book a strategy call. It gives you access to my calendar. You can find a time that works for you, and we can meet. And if you can't, message me and I'll make it work. The other thing that I've recently created, and just also relaunching that with a new title, is my private membership community, and in that there's going to be there is already group coaching, and that is really where the main value lies. So my strategy call at this point in time is $179 for a 45-minute conversation. The group coaching in the private membership community is, I think it's $44.99. I should know that, shouldn't I? $44.99, and for that you get 2 group coaching sessions a month, so every fortnight. And it's an amazing value for people who need some extra support and really want to explore the possibilities. And the best way to join that is probably realistically just send me a message or flick me a quick email, because the URL for that is super long, but I will put it in the show notes for this episode. So if you want to have a look at that, flick me a message, and I'll make sure you get the information about that, and I can send you a link so that you can sign up for a 7-day free trial and check it out and see what's in there. I've also got some great content called After the Bell, which is the post-podcast juicy bits, I call it, where I've had a conversation in the podcast episode with the person I've been interviewing, and then we have a kind of a continuation of that conversation, going a bit deeper, and then I've turned that into some little videos called After the Bell, and there's some really great helpful tips on just a bit more concrete strategies than we cover in the podcast episode. So I don't ask them to hold back in the podcast episode, but sometimes something comes up, and then we can explore it a little bit further in that second conversation, and that's within that private membership community. There's also a chat room there so that people can support one another during the week, or when we're not on the group coaching call, and then of course the group coaching, and over time I will add more resources to that. I've also just recently, with one of my clients, very generously allowed me to video her while she set up her LinkedIn profile for the first time. So I've got all that little video that's going to be made available within that private membership as well. And if you're a bit scared about setting up your LinkedIn profile, as I know I was when I first started out, that's a really great little piece of great content there to help you just overcome that fear. Once you see how easy it is to do, it'll the fear will go away, because you'll see that it's something that you could do yourself quite easily, with a little bit of extra support, because you need to get a few things ready to do it, but it's pretty easy to do. So I think, along the way, you'll discover that there's lots of great support out there. I know there are other coaches working in this space as well. But if you want to work with someone who's been down the pathway of trying to work out how to get out, the uncertainty, the fear, the grief about leaving a profession that I really did love, and the frustration I felt as it became less and less what I thought it was going to be. And you want someone who's going to understand that, who'll sympathize with that to some extent, but also to help you to switch your focus, look to the future, and work on a plan. then please do get in touch with me. I'd love to work alongside you and prepare you for that journey and help you to create a life that you don't need to escape from. I wish you every success for the remainder of 2022 and beyond. And if there's any way I can support you, just go to my website, larksong.com.au, and book a call, or you can message me in there. There's a way to send me a message as well on the website. So please do take me up on that offer. And for the rest of this podcast is going to stay up probably for about another 6 months, I think, till probably the end of June 2023. I'll keep it up on the platform, but keep your eye out for the new podcast possibilities beyond the classroom. Thanks, everyone. Take care. And it's a bit early, but Merry Christmas for when the time comes. Take care. Bye.